Are late developers really at a disadvantage when it comes to playing sport? It's a question that perhaps many parents and athletes have asked. Nobody wants to be disadvantaged, and feeling that you can't compete simply because of your particular package of genes can be distressing. Attend any under-13 Craven week, perhaps the highest caliber of under-13 rugby play on the planet, and you are immediately drawn to the sheer size difference in the players. Yes, rugby traditionally is always going to see big men playing against smaller men, but at the under-13 age group, this is even more pronounced. Watch a few of these under-13 Craven week matches, and it soon becomes quite clear that David and Goliath style mismatches are very commonplace in this competition. As you watch the diminutive boys struggling to compete against the men in boys' skin, you have to sympathize with the little fellows, and you are soon admiring just how brave they were to compete against such odds. You can't help but wonder what the chances are that any of these young enthusiasts would be provincial or international stars one day, and whether it would be the giants or the imps who will survive. Fortunately, we don't have to just guess at these odds, because like-minded researchers have already done the legwork for us. Firstly, it's important to point out that the odds of any player surviving from under 13 to senior Springbok or international level are very small indeed. Only 1 in 5 players who play in the under 13 Craven week are selected 5 years later to play at the under 18 Craven week. The dropout rate from there on becomes even steeper, with only 0.02%. That's 1 in 6,102 players being selected for the national under 18 week, going on to play at the highest level for the Springboks. Based on these numbers, it's a little sad to know that when you do watch the under 13 Craven week sides, you are probably not watching the future stars of South African rugby battling it out, but more likely the guys holding the spaces in the teams until the real talents emerge. Despite these overwhelming odds, 1 or 2 of the under 13s you're watching are still likely to go all the way. But can we guess which ones? The safe money is on the little guy, and this is why. Firstly, it's important to note that the size difference illustrated in our photograph is likely the result of 2 non-modifiable factors: genetics and maturation status. You really have to choose your parents pretty well to be 198 centimeters tall and 102 kilograms as a 13-year-old. These numbers put this boy in the 99.99th percentile for height in the world at his age. The other little fellow is unlikely to ever be that tall, and would probably be rather unhealthy were he ever to be that heavy. The other difference in these 2 players is that there is likely a difference in their maturation status. In the figure, it illustrates just how it is possible for 2 boys of the same age to achieve physical maturity at different rates. The big player in our example is almost certainly an early maturer and has already passed his peak height velocity. This confers him with a number of advantages. As an early maturer, he has better developed speed, strength, aerobic and anaerobic power than the rest of his cohort at his age. Our smaller player, on the other hand, still has his PHV growth spurt to look forward to, where he will make rapid gains in these areas. Unfortunately, it may still be a few years before this happens, and in the meantime, he has to hang tough in the face of this grossly unfair mismatch. The biggest problem with trying to identify talent in the face of differing levels of maturity is that there is an inevitable bias towards picking the bigger, stronger and faster boy. However, research is emerging to show that the least mature players in junior representative squads are the most likely to transition into senior national squads. The reasons for this phenomenon are not clear, but it's likely that relatively less mature players develop skills and experience while competing with more mature boys that place them at an advantage in senior competition. Once all the players have reached maturity, the skill set that allowed the late developers to survive playing against bigger, stronger, and faster opponents becomes the skill set that allows them to thrive at the highest levels of competition. Football has already proven this. Famously, Lionel Messi, the world's best footballer for many years, was noted as being too small for his age. So was Diego Maradona. And more recently, Premier League superstars like Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy were also viewed as being small for their age. Clearly, late developers are able to make it to the very top in football. Whether this is possible in rugby is still unclear. In a game that often values size over skill, less mature players could easily be cast aside by the selectors. However, it should be a comfort to these players to know that if they can just hang in there, they may ultimately arise to be the very best of the lot.